Hey, Cassie. Hey, Cassie. We'll let you catch up. Everybody ready? March 13, 2023, council meeting. Notice is hereby given pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act, Vernon's annotated civil statute, Article 625217, that the city of Smithfield will conduct a council meeting and public hearing on March 13, 2023 at 6 p.m. at the City Hall located at 317 Main Street, Smithfield, Texas. I call the open meeting to order. Today, we're blessed with Pastor Holt from Abundance Grace Community Church to give us our invocation.
God, we thank you for this day. Thank you for the blessings and the mercy of the day. God, we actually thank you for the great city of ours. God, I pray for our leaders. Father, I pray that you would give them courage, the strength, and the wisdom that they need us. God, we pray for every citizen. God, we pray that you would continue to prosper us as we move forward. God, we thank you for that. And we pray we all say it together.
Amen. Now we will say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag Move on to recognitions and awards. Do we have any veterans here today? We would like to recognize you. Please stand. Please stand. Janice, and thank you for your service. Thank all of you for your. Very nice. Councilman Bruno is going to read the proclamation for the Vietnam Veterans Day.
Whereas on January 12, 1962, the United States Army pilots lifted more than 1,000 South Vietnamese service members over jungle and underbrush to capture a National Liberation Front stronghold near Saigon. Operation Chopper marked America's first combat mission against the Viet Cong and the beginning of one of our longest and most challenging wars. Through more than a decade of conflict that tested the fabric of our nation, the service of our men and women in uniform stood true. Today, we honor the more than 3 million Americans who served. We pay tribute to those we have laid to rest, and we reaffirm our dedication to showing a generation of veterans the respect and support of a grateful nation. And whereas the Vietnam War is a story of service members of different backgrounds, colors, and creeds who came together to complete a daunting mission. It is a story of Americans from every corner of our nation who left the warmth of family to serve the country they loved. It is a story of patriots who braved the line of fire, who cast themselves into harm's way to save a friend, who fought hour after hour, day after day, to preserve the liberties we hold dear. From An Drong to Hue, they won every major battle of the war and upheld the highest traditions of our armed forces. And whereas 11 years of combat left their imprint on a generation, thousands returned home bearing shrapnel and scars. Still more were burdened by the invisible wounds of post-traumatic stress, of Agent Orange, of memories that would never fade. More than 58,000 laid their lives down to serve our nation. Now and forever, their names are etched into two faces of black granite, a lasting memorial to those who bore conflict's greatest cost. And whereas our veterans answered our country's call and served with honor, and on March 29, 1973, the last of our troops left Vietnam. Yet, in one of the war's most profound tragedies, many of these men and women came home to be shunned and neglected, to face treatment unbefitting their courage and a welcome unworthy of their example. We must never let this happen again. Today, we reaffirm one of the most fundamental obligations to show all who have worn the uniform of the United States the respect and the dignity they deserve, and to honor their sacrifice by serving them as well as they served us. Over a half a century after those helicopters swept off the ground and into history, we pay tribute to the fallen, the missing, the wounded, the millions who served, and the millions more who awaited their return. Our nation stands stronger for their service, and on Vietnam Veterans Day, we honor their proud legacy with our deepest gratitude.
Now therefore, I, Sharon Forrester, Mayor of the City of Smithville, do hereby proclaim March 29, 2023 as Vietnam Veterans Day. In the city of Smithville, Texas, we urge all citizens to join me in recognizing the dedication and sacrifice of our Vietnam's veterans. Thank you for your service, everyone. Next item on the agenda is Community Resource Center presentation. Kim Roberts. Vanna, you look like Vanna White. Come on down. You have to turn your mic on.
Hi, I'm Kim Roberts, and I just brought a special lady to meet you guys today from Marble Falls. And she can tell you a lot more about the community resource centers that she has been a part of. So Donna Klager. And I brought the wrong.
Hello, I'm Donna Klager. I appreciate the opportunity to share with you the Community Resource Center program. And after the end of this presentation, we'll have a video to show you all. So a quick background, Donna Klager, I'm a consultant now for basically community resource centers and other opportunities. And I work with Texas Housing Foundation and the community resource centers to introduce, engage, and work with interested communities in developing these facilities in their communities and programs. I am a retired Burnett County judge. I was a treasurer, chamber executive director, president, all the stuff everybody does in the days. And we learned a lot and how to work together. I partnered with the Texas Housing Foundation to create the first community resource center in Marble Falls, Texas in 2004. And we currently own and operate 4 CRCs, one in Marble Falls, Burnett County, Johnson City, Blanco County, Llano County, and Liberty Hill in Williamson County. They're all a little bit different because everybody's community is different. So the Community Resource Center is set up to address the communities in which they stand. Texas Housing Foundation is a nonprofit organization also. It's independent regional housing authority and has 43 workforce housing communities in Texas and is growing. In February of 2022, I received an email from Janice Bruno, Executive Director of Smithville Community Clinic, noting that they were in the process of converting one of their buildings into a community resource center, and that she had been referred from our Burnett County judge, Judge Oakley, and St. David's Foundation, and from Mark Mayfield with Texas Housing Foundation to visit our community resource center in Marble Falls to gain a better insight of best practices, what it looks like, what it feels like, and what is offered. So in March, a Smithville group toured our Marble Falls CRC, and in June, Smithville Community hosted a CRC program in Smithville. And I will say I've done a lot of presentations in my life, but it was by far the largest presentation community resource centers that I have ever been part of. And it was just, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you all were there, and I appreciate your attendance. So we followed by a tour of potential sites for community resource centers and workforce housing throughout Smithville. And when we were coming back, this, you can't miss the rec center. It's kind of in the middle and it's big. And I asked Janice, I said, what about that? I mean, it's, in a lot of the places they have to renovate old buildings or build from scratch. And I said, boy, that's a really nice building. And so at that time, during those meetings, I also met Kim Roberts, and I learned that she actually ran our Marble Falls Community Resource Center after I had been elected as the judge. And she not only ran that center in the community of Marble Falls, but she also saw over the constructions of Liberty Hill and Llano from construction to operations. So you have someone here who knows what it's all about and how to bring. So it's a one-stop shop for community services. You bring agencies to come in and provide services that are in their region. And if you're, with CAPCOG or any other organization, there's a lot of services throughout that are supposed to come to our rural communities, but if they don't have a place to come to provide the services, then they don't come. So this model has worked well. The communities, they may have their office in Austin in different areas or Georgetown, but they actually will come out, they don't stay. Some live with us, but they'll come for Wednesday mornings or Tuesday afternoons, and they make their own appointments and they set up all the agendas and everything. And so it's been a very, very successful program. So your community assessments actually do identify all the needs in your community, and you already have those community assessments and they're updated, I know, regularly. So that's basically how you focus and who to bring in and we give them free offices so they don't have to pay for an office to come in. And that's our model. So the facility, the rec center has plenty of office space in there. There's lots of, I was able to tour it a couple of times, and I thank the staff there because they've been very, very forthright in coming and showing us everything. And again, Janice has been there, Kim's been there. And I have Jeannie with me who worked with me at the county, and she actually is working with us in community resource centers because she doesn't ever want to retire, right? Neither one of us do. So it appears that there's plenty of staffing, there's plenty of vacant rooms, and if the city is interested in this concept, our community resource center staff can certainly we can help set up processes and procedures. And so that's just kind of an overview of what a resource center is. We own ours. We don't own everybody's, but we're here to assist in any way we can. And we have a video, and Jennifer's going to show the quick video so you can see it. And I thank you. It was a different one. It was a video just by itself. Should be able to click on it. There you go. So the building on the right is the really old, it used to be an old daycare building that we renovated. And then where you see the white rock in the middle, there should be a sound on it. That we have a food pantry on the left, and you see the The information is there. Anybody can call if you have any questions. And if you all have any questions, please let me know.
Can I ask a question?
I'll
Yeah.
defer to you, Janice. and I'll
Well,
go
I
after you.
just want to, would you explain, okay, part of why we were really interested is because we know we need workforce affordable housing. So when Donna came, okay, not only do you do a CRC, but like the video showed, you do workforce housing, which is always pretty close by a CRC. And so you want to tell them a little bit about Mark Mayfield, and Kim had worked with Mark Mayfield. He also came to Smithville and was very, very excited about putting affordable housing here in Smithville. Would you talk a little bit
Absolutely.
about that?
So we partnered, I worked with Mark Seraph back at the very beginning, who we had a nonprofit organization, and we had this concept, but we didn't have a building. So we found this old empty daycare building. It was pretty nasty too. But we went and talked to Mark Mayfield and said, we really are interested in this, but we need a building. And he said, we'll do it. We'll renovate the building. So they renovated the building. It's nothing like the rec center with real walls and everything. It had glass walls and different things, but it was nice. And Mr. Seraph actually put the furniture in it and got us started. And I ran it, like I said, for a year, and then we had it. It was full. I mean, everything from food pantries to Seton did vaccine shots there. Now during COVID, we had COVID shots at all of our CRCs and people, because it's right in the middle of communities. And as you saw, workforce housing, that was workforce housing. It's beautiful, but it's affordable housing. And so our concept is try to take the CRCs where the people are, or where people are used to being there. And so Texas Housing Foundation, and after, like I said, after I retired, Mark and I partnered up. And so that's what our goals are in Central Texas at this time. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
And I was at the presentation that you did, and it was very good. The
Thank
one that
you.
I think was sponsored by the chamber. Just real quickly for our benefit and the audience, how do you think a city like Smithville should be thinking about our current rec center and CRC, and how are they alike and different? And what would you see as being the timeline and the types of things we ought to be teeing up or thinking about relative to a CRC?
Well, the rec center is amazing. It's a fabulous building. There's more offices in that building than probably in any place I've actually gone into for this type of program. I would say that it's ready. It has enough offices that are not being used or throughout the building. And I was a county judge, so I'm very, very well aware of your emergency management in the back, and having that area. But I also know, our community resource center was a place for us to go to also. So we had it at the counties, at the different places all across the county. And so that, when those rooms aren't being used, most of the time a nonprofit will come in for a half a day. So even if you have 3 offices, I think there's 2 or 3 offices right off of where everybody plays bingo, that room across from the kitchen area. I think there's like 2 or 3 offices, right? Is that right? There's 2. Somebody's using one. Yeah, the rooms, just little offices. So, and then some across the hall. So anytime you have 3, you can say most agencies don't live there unless you really find someone who wants to open the food bank or do something like that, which you have plenty of room for pretty much anything you would like to have in that facility. But they come in like every Monday and Wednesday in the mornings, or every Tuesdays and Thursdays in the afternoons or whatever. So literally with 3 offices, you could have 2 a day for 5 days a week. That's 15 different nonprofits you could have if they were all just coming and going. Some of ours, they live with us. So they have a full-time office and they set up, bring their stuff, and they just live there. We don't charge the organization. Because again, this is like opportunities and Bluebonnet Trails and all of these that have, sometimes 7 to 10 counties that they're taking care of. They can't afford a rental place everywhere they go. So we provide them a free place to come. Did I answer the question or most of it?
Set up just so you could talk a little bit about what your perspective was, because I know you spent a lot of time here. And I know we've talked about how this particular approach may or may not, complement or supplement what we have today, and what, if anything, might be displaced if we did a transition that would be important. So I don't know, Robert, is this something that we put on a workshop at some point to talk about, or what's the next steps? How do we move this kind of presentation to?
Well,
kinda
can I ask a couple more questions? Can you explain to everybody else? So I had to go back and do my research and everything, because I think when you came, it was June of last year, June or July.
Might have been.
It was August. Okay, well, August. Anyways, it doesn't, neither here nor there. I was not there. So with that being said, can you explain to everybody as well, how exactly it works with the staff that we have currently? When we bring those in, if anything will, like if the people would be displaced, how it works necessarily with even, like, will the city run it? Will CRC run it? Who is it that does all of that? If you can explain to people
Okay.
that are listening.
Well, the thing is, it's totally up to you. What happens with it? It's your building. In my mind, it's your building. You can use some of your same employees. You don't have to hire new people. It's really the employees just check people in. When people come in, they sign in or whatever, and they make their own appointments. So if I'm an agency, I make the appointments with my clients, and they just come to the facility, they check in, and they come see me. So it's not, it's not a labor of anything that you have to run. You may say, well, we're really, really busy in the recreation part of the deal. We don't have the ability to do that. You could hire one more person, or you could, I will say I've been in the building several times, and I mean, at this point, it's not really that busy. And so I think with the staff that you have, or volunteers who are coming in using the facility already, I don't see that that's an issue. Now, it's a big building, and if you become very successful, then you will make those decisions. The CRC, we're just here to assist you. We can provide you with operational assistance in how to set up a program, how to, we can help you do that assessment again to say, what resources do we have here and what resources are coming in from out of town, and setting things up. So we have a really good, well, once it goes into that, it'll go into the lady who's actually running our community resource center now. And Lucy and Dawn have done a great job of operations and keeping and bringing in programs and bringing all kinds of programs. And we give everyone free access to our community rooms, because the more people come in and see what's going on in the community and can see a lot of people working together, it's become very successful.
So you're just more of like a liaison, basically.
Right.
So it's still going to be called Smithville Rec Center. We don't have to change the name to Smithville CRC or anything like that. And it's more or less you help us guide to be able to bring our citizens more
Different resources.
resources.
Yeah, so my question stands to Robert is, what are your thoughts on kind of where we go next from here?
Certainly a workshop would be a great idea to bring ideas to the table for discussion. This would be a cohabitated facility, and you have to remember that given we received a $1.5 million grant from the government, this is a shelter foremost. It's going to be first used as a shelter, so people may be displaced. As I said, there's opportunities for partnership. There's a lot of programs that use all those ancillary rooms, Meals on Wheels, after school programs, the gym in and of itself. So I do see opportunity going forward, but when an emergency situation comes, everything stops. So we have to keep that in
That
our
does,
heads. Yes.
that does happen in ours. So
Yep.
during our emergency, the ice storm, the last ice storm, we were closed down and only open for emergencies. And they actually delivered everything to our community resource center in Marble Falls.
And I can tell you that Ashley's been working with Councilmember Bruno and your group to identify some opportunities for that. I can tell you that the county, the OEM is looking to open or set criteria for what triggers an event requiring it to become a shelter and or a warming cooling center. So there's still things to come. To answer your question, yes, probably a workshop would be good to identify opportunities for us to utilize the service and expand the overall services to the community. Ashley, anything I left out? The rec center director is Ashley Garrison. She's being a little timid today, but anyway, okay, thank you. Appreciate the work you do and great fun run this weekend.
And thank you for the tours. Thank you. With that, we're going to go ahead and go. Appreciate meeting everyone, and you can give me a call anytime. And if I can help and assist as you move forward or decide decisions, we're just here to serve. Thank you. That's my husband. He's my husband and my attorney and my driver. We don't charge anything. We don't charge people for offices. We don't charge for them to use the conference rooms, and we have a big kitchen and et cetera. So we don't charge anything for the CRC service.
Thank you, Donna. Safe travels. Next item on the agenda, approval of the minutes from February 13, 2023 council meeting and public hearing, the March 1st, 2023 special call council meeting and the March 9th, 2023 special call council meeting. Council, do you have any questions?
Is Andy here?
Andy?
No. Maybe you know, Robert, where are we on Civic Plus? I know he briefed that last council meeting.
Certainly, we were able to bundle and get a very good price on revamping, redesigning our website. We do utilize Civic Plus for our C-Click Fix platform. We had a kickoff meeting, data gathering, and we'll continue to have those meetings. And we think, was it 3 to 6 months, have something ready to push out. So we're on top of it. That also includes message boards. Did I leave anything out? Thank you.
Madam Mayor, make a motion to go ahead and approve the minutes of all 3 council meetings. You want the date?
Might be, but no, we finally got some air. I have a motion, and did someone second? Where am I? You did. Thank you. Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Approved. Number 6, hear recommendations from planning and zoning chairman. There you are. I didn't see you earlier. Oh, perfect. Thank you. Oh. Perfect.
I heard another air release from Caroline. Didn't know I was here either.
Were you nervous, Caroline? Okay. At least you calmed her nerves.
I'm here to give recommendations from the February Planning and Zoning meeting. We had two items that I'm reporting on today. The first one is on a request for multiple variances at 205 Northeast Second Street, parcel ID 84198, property owner Janice Taylor, agent Dallas Taylor for the owner. This is the property, I guess, 2 blocks off Main Street to the east. Hopefully, you're familiar with the site, so you have a picture of it in your mind. It's current use is essentially commercial, and the owner of the property wants to change the use to multifamily structure. With the stated objective of providing affordable housing. To do that, though, they have made a number of variance requests. And I'm gonna break these down, kind of group them so I can speak to them kind of as makes a little bit more sense to me. I will note at the Planning and Zoning Commission, we asked the representative for the applicant whether it would be necessary for all of these variances to be granted, because some of them be granted and others not. And would he still go forward with the project? I don't know if he's here tonight. Okay. I believe he said needed all the variances in order for it to make sense to go forward on the project. I bring that to the attention because a couple of the variance requests were approved, a couple were not approved, and some ended up in a tie vote. So with that preface, I'm going to start with lot size, maximum coverage, minimum space. 2.2.4 of the ordinances require a minimum lot size of 15,000 square feet for a multifamily unit. The actual size of the lot is just over 4,000 square feet. So the request for the variance is approximately 1,100 square feet smaller. Maximum coverage is 70% coverage with a minimum open space of 30%. Essentially, the structure is property line to property line. So it'd be impossible to meet those. So there's a request for a variance from those numbers. Setbacks, as I mentioned, essentially the structure is on the property lines. There's some room at the front. Setback requirements for multifamily for this type of structure is 25 front, side, and back. So there'd be significant requests for variances from the minimum setbacks. So that's lot size, setbacks. And the last group I have for this is parking. When you're talking about a multifamily unit, it depends on the size of the units within the structure. No, I take that back. Actually requires 2 per unit. So as you can see, there's 3 units there. So the off-street parking requirement would be 6 parking spaces. He's only providing potentially parking space for 2 cars. And so he's either asking for a variance from 6 to 2 or to be allowed to park cars at the front of the structure. That also requires a variance because you have to have a 25-foot setback and you cannot park in what's supposed to be the open front yard on a structure. Okay, so if we go with setbacks, the variance request for the front side and rear setback was proposed and passed 2-1. So those variances were granted. The the setback variances, front, side, and back, Those were passed to be recommended to the city council to allow those variances by a vote to 2-1. Minimum lot size. Remember, I said it was a 15,000 square foot minimum. This entire lot is approximately 4,051 square feet. So that's a significant request for a variance. That request was approved for recommendation to the city council. Off-street parking, as I said, the proposed structure would have basically a garage off the alley at the rear of the building. And it you just passed it. That's the existing, that's the front. Of the
To know where the existing place is, I drove there today. It is on Second Street. It's a building that needs some love, literally. And this gentleman and his family have come in with an idea. They're going to, I had to talk to Dallas because I didn't understand what was going on here. And so, is it okay if I speak? Oh. He's wanting to
Counsel.
change the usage, which it is commercial now, but once he changes the usage of it, it goes back to single family dwelling, but he's wanting multiple family dwelling. And so he is trying to bring housing to Smithville is what he's trying to do. And the variance he needs is parking in the front of the building. That is what is one of his variances is. So I think the picture is up, so you can get an idea of the building that's deteriorating right here on Second Street that he's trying to bring life to. So
interrupt Brian's presentation, but I think it would help me if Robert would clarify. My understanding is that no zoning change will actually take place. The SF2 or the zoning, the use that would be required is under the current commercial zoning. So the commercial zoning would remain the same. We're just being asked to approve the down zoning usage on this site, which has its own requirements. Those are the ones that you're speaking to. Did I get that pretty much right?
Yes, sir, that is correct. Yep. For zoning, it's zone commercial. We have cumulative zoning rights here. That includes everything up to and including C2, general commercial district, back down. So that would include multifamily, SF2, SF1, whatever the owner would like to do as a use within that context of C2. Okay, so he's asking for multifamily, so you have to follow the multifamily requirements, which establishes the setbacks, the open space, the lot size. So that's where we are. It's going to stay C2, but he's just falling under multifamily.
Yes. And that's what's being debated here, if I understand it right, is how he doesn't conform to the multifamily rules, which is why the variances are being requested. Is that
Correct.
Yeah.
The single family or multifamily or townhouses are all permitted in C2, but you still have to meet the zoning requirements for that use within the C2 district.
Could he not stay commercial and do this?
without meeting the requirements for the SF2?
I was just thinking of other, I feel like there's another rental place that's commercial too. I was just trying to think.
You can have, or I'm sorry, you can have residential within a commercial district. But if you do that, you have to meet the more restrictive requirements of that usage, which then the category that you can do it. So you can have single family or multifamily within a commercial district, but you do have to meet the requirements. Well, I'm not going to get into building. I shouldn't get into building, but use requirements and restrictions for the use of that property if you're going to use it for a more restrictive use. That's why, subdivision, you can't have a commercial property, but in a commercial zone, you can have single family house. It's cumulative, as Robert said.
So the parking, you guys put no recommendation because you guys were against it, or was there just a tie, or how did that work?
yeah,
Oh, that's what he just said. I'm sorry.
well, I'm trying to bring
Excuse me.
some structure to.
Let me
an
interrupt.
open
I need
meeting.
everyone to speak into the microphone. It will not come over on audio online. So please do your best to get very close to the microphone. Sorry, it may be a little loud for those in the audience, but I want folks online to be able to hear. Thank you.
I'll go to, I'll finish up on parking. I'll get right to your point. As I said, for this use requires 6 parking spaces. There's a proposed garage, which will be 2. There's an issue with that in the sense of there's enough space there. The requirement is for each parking space is 8 feet by 20 feet, and his proposed garage would be large enough to have 2 parking units. It is right on the alleyway. And if you're going to be able to count 2 spaces there, you have to be able to get 2 cars in there at the same time with ingress and egress in and out from the alleyway. So there was a question to planning and zone whether or not they would actually be able to get 2 cars in and out of that parking garage. For the purposes of discussion and the way it went at planning and zoning, okay, even if that does meet requirements, there's still a requirement to have 4 more off-street parking. To be off-street parking, you cannot park in the front yard. And so his variance request actually, as to those 4 spaces, is either don't give me a variance so I just need 2 parking spaces, or allow me to use the front yard to park 4 more cars. The parking variances, there was a motion made. The motion failed for no second. So there's no recommendation for coming from planning and zoning for parking. I spoke of the maximum lot coverage. Maximum lot coverage is 70% of the property. Again, that failed for no second. So planning and zoning has no recommendation for the variance request for maximum lot coverage. Open space is the remaining. Open space minimum requirement is 30% of the property. Essentially, the proposed structure will cover almost the entire property. No motion was made on that. So from planning and zoning, what we have is the setbacks were approved. The request for setbacks were approved for proposal to the city council to grant those variances. Minimum lot size from 15,000 square feet down to 4,000, voted 2-1 to recommend to city council to approve those variance requests. Maximum lot coverage, 70%. Minimum open space, 30%. And off-street parking, all failed. Either for a lack of a second or simply no motion was actually made.
Question? Is this the right time? Okay, I just want to make sure I'm logistically, I read this and spent quite a bit of time on this, but I also appreciate the presentation, the structure of that, because I wasn't at that meeting and didn't see that video. It seems to me that a motion to approve that lacked a second, I would interpret as a denial, even though there may not have been a motion to deny. If you don't get a second for a motion to approve, I'm going to assume that there wasn't people in support of it. So to me, that's basically a denial. If that's the case, then the first 3, the setback, become kind of irrelevant, because if you're not going to be willing to deal with the off-street parking and the minimum lot coverage, which there was no recommendation for, the benefit of the waiving the setbacks is so you could do those things and there was no recommendation to do them. Is that a logical way to think about that?
I'll allow you to interpret the presentation that I made, but I don't disagree.
You don't disagree with me?
That's the reason why I asked the applicant during the hearing whether this was an all or no thing proposition.
And I want to be clear. I mean, I'm as big a fan for finding ways to do rental because I think rental is the original affordable housing. I mean, I know when I was growing up, that's what you did is you went and found an apartment that had shag carpet and formica counters, and that's what you did. And as soon as you could get enough money to go to one that had real carpet, that's where you went. And then you saved your money and you got a house. So I'm all for rental. It just seems to me a 4,000 square foot lot just simply doesn't feel big enough to do a multifamily site. But that's just kind of the way I'm looking at this. It just feels like the parking is a big deal for me more than anything, probably.
I'm sorry for interrupting.
No,
I
go
just
ahead,
want to
I'm
kind of
finished.
say about the parking. We allow parking for homes on the street. The apartment complexes that we have, those people park on streets. People park on streets everywhere in this town. So if it's 3 houses that are, or 3 units that we're able to have that, and I don't see why we wouldn't. And in addition to that, 2 of them are just 1 bedroom. So you would assume, and assuming, I get it, guys, assuming, but you would assume that there would probably just be a like a small, couple or a single person that doesn't have kids, and there would be 1 or 2 cars. It's not, I don't know, in my mind, if we have somebody coming in that's making 3 different units that we're going to be able to house people, why can't they park on the street like everybody else?
Well,
Just
it's-
playing devil's advocate. I
It,
mean,
it's not that they're not permitted to park in front of the building. That's a separate question. It's whether it meets the minimum
correct. So that's
requirements.
what I'm saying is, I mean, they're going to park on the street anyways, or most people park on the street. So why wouldn't we just approve it knowing that they're going to park on the street and for somebody to come in? On addition, the open space, I understand the 30 to 24 and there was no motion made at all. But I'm wondering if there was no motion just because, quite honestly, it's hard to picture it if you don't see it. So those that haven't been there, I mean, I feel like that's a silly, not that it's silly. I feel like it's one of the ones where you go there and you're like, oh, well, yeah, I mean, there's no other way to be able to do that. So that makes sense, because even if they didn't do anything, it still is at 24%. They can't like make land, like they'd have to take off part of the building in order to make it bigger. So that sounds kind of silly. And then maximum lot coverage, I mean, recommendation allow variance of 6%. I'm not gonna lie, 6% is nothing in the grand scheme of things when you're talking about all the different stuff that we have around the city. So for me, what I hear and what I see, which I don't know if a lot of people can see that or read those small prints. I mean, it's two single family or 2 1-room apartments up there in the front. And it has a kitchen, it has a little family room, a bathroom. And then on the bottom, it has 2 bedrooms and a kitchen and a living room. It looks like there's a covered porch and everything. And I get that the alley, but people could come in and out of there. People go in and out of all of our alleys. And for me personally, I think that this is a great thing to bring into town for us needing such housing, affordable housing, as we've said multiple times in this meeting already. I do have a couple questions for Dallas after, and I know that you have to go to the next one, but that's just my little 2 cents.
Yes, I think I have a couple of, I don't know if they're questions, but observations on this. Was planning and zoning presented with a picture that shows the building on the plat?
No.
Because- Okay, because that
Which
would be
made
very helpful.
which made it very difficult to figure out exactly what variances he was requesting.
Yeah, I would have a hard time approving this without having a better understanding of how the building would sit on the lot. The parking thing does concern me because this is something that is a problem all over town already. And I don't think we want to add to the problem of congestion on the streets. I would have a question, I guess, for the Taylors. Is it possible to come up with a plan perhaps with 2 units that would eliminate some of the variances requested and give the ability to add parking for 4 cars. If that could be economically feasible, I think that might be a way to add the housing, which we do desperately need, but also do something that would be a little more attractive and also a little more workable for the people that are living there.
As I talked to Dallas today, that I know they're leaving the building there because she has good bones, and they're not removing the building. As you read this, it sounds like they're removing the building, but they're not. They're using the existing structure, and they're going in to build inside of the existing structure. So that part was confused. I thought they were tearing down the building until I walked over there, and then Dallas and I spoke. But the existing building is staying exactly where it is. And what they proposed is what's going on inside the building. Is that correct, Dallas? Yes.
Back portion of that building, is that like a metal structure in the back? On the outside, okay. Otherwise, it's all like a concrete stucco, the entire building.
Y'all want to speak to Mr. Taylor at this moment while your questions are fresh on your mind, or what do you want to do, council? Are you good? Or just go to next? Please go to next.
Okay, the next item is a request for a variance for a masonry wall or equivalent noise attenuating barrier addition site design standard for the Highway Commercial District for property ID 8717857. Property owner George McMahon, agent Ronnie Kettler. Property is located on the Loop. It's already under construction. It's a new, I don't know if it's Dollar General or that type of structure. The zoning requirements for a commercial structure that abuts a single family or SF1 district, which this property is part of a larger property, and it is residential, the remaining of the property. So the requirement is for a masonry wall or a similar type noise containment structure between the commercial property and the single family residences. The request by the property owner originally was no structure, no wall of any type or fencing of any type, because those are fairly narrow and deep lots. The commercial property would be a considerable distance from any homes that would be constructed in that subdivision. In the process of the hearing, they said that they would construct a wooden fence. The motion was made. The vote was 2-2. There were only 4 members at planning and zoning. So I have, it's a tie. And so I do not have a recommendation. Just state the facts that it was a tie vote.
So Rui, what were the objections on not having wooden versus masonry?
The subdivision ordinances requires noise attenuating.
Okay.
The standards for making a proposal for a recommendation to the city council has to go through those test items. The decision of 2 of the members on there was that it didn't meet the qualifications. After long discussion.
So to piggyback a little bit off of Councilmember Bruno's question, it really boiled down to wood versus would not being maybe good sound attenuating material.
I don't know the mindset
Yeah.
of each
Would
one
that
of
be a
them
logical
besides myself.
conclusion for someone to draw?
I'll let
Okay,
you draw
okay,
that
okay.
conclusion.
Was there anybody from the community that spoke for or against it at the meeting?
I don't recall.
Okay,
I mean, I'm sorry, I just don't recall.
no one?
We had some speaking to the previous one,
Okay,
but I'm sorry. I should have checked my notes closer.
you did have some for the previous one,
Yes.
for or against? Well, I guess that's a loaded question as I say that out loud because there's so many.
Excuse me, point of order. No one online can hear you. If you're going to speak, please use a microphone to address the council. Thank you. I don't mean to be such a,
My memory has been
We'll come back to
adequately
it.
refreshed, and I can speak, I can speak to that. Which was that, the application, if we're going back to the previous item. The application did say it was for the purposes of affordable housing. There was someone from the community who spoke and pointed out that the tenor of the discussion and the tenor of the representations at the hearing this was not necessarily affordable housing in the sense of a defined affordable housing. It's to maximize the use of the property in commercial, I mean, in an economic way. And I think I can add that he was not objecting to the intended use of the property. He just wanted to draw attention to the question about affordable housing.
Okay, now we'll close the open meeting and go back into the public hearing. Jennifer, do we have anybody signed up to speak? Come on down, Monica. State where you live.
no, it's not on yet. Now do it. Try.
Robert, is this loud enough?
I'm just trying to give some love to the people.
No, I
online, so-
understand. All right, thank you. And if I get far away from it, I would love a reminder. So I'm Monica Poston. I live on Hudgens Street and I serve on planning and zoning, but I want to make it clear that I am here to speak in my capacity as a public citizen and not to represent planning and zoning in any way. Brian always does a spectacular job of representing PNC as a whole. And I also want to say I'm extremely fortunate to be able to serve with the people I do on PNC and have learned a lot from their experience. Sometimes we disagree. And I personally think that makes things kind of interesting and it gets all of us thinking more. It gets all of us asking better questions and understanding a proposal better than we do when we go in. So speaking on item A, which is the Dallas Taylor project. I do think we should grant a variance to two off-street parking spots. And I do think we should grant a variance for the maximum lot coverage and the minimum open space. And those are really just, those two items are kind of opposite sides of the same coin, maximum lot coverage versus minimum open space. If any of you have been to see the property, it is falling apart. It is an eyesore, is dilapidated, and they are proposing to spend a lot of money fixing it up into something that people in our community can use. The proposed building plans will actually take up a little bit less space than the existing structure. If it stayed as commercial use, which it is partially commercial use now, you know, who's to say they wouldn't fix it up and put a couple of offices in there? And we don't know what the parking situation would be like then. We do have some idea what it would be like in a residential situation. And I would agree with Cassie that it's unlikely we're going to need 4 cars for 2 600 square foot 1-bedroom units. So the last time I spoke with forget her name, the woman who runs the housing authority is part of the housing huddle. Rhonda, thank you. As part of the housing huddle workshop process. They had over 86 people on their wait list, and well over half of them were waiting for 1 and 2 bedroom units. Now, so many people throw the word affordable around, and there's so many definitions, and some people think it means Section 8 housing, or some people think it means, what I tend to look at it, even though it's not the legal definition federally, it's housing that the people who are already here can afford. We have way too few units as a community for our service workers, for our new teachers, for the single people who work and, serve the drinks at the wine bar. And we need these units desperately. It is so close to downtown. It's a block off of downtown. Maybe the folks living there end up parking downtown and just walk half a block home when they're done working. So I really think we as a community have been talking for over 25 years about needing affordable housing, about needing smaller units, and either we mean it or we don't. And if we mean it, I have 6 minutes, 2 items, item A, item B. That's my first 3. Cool, because the other one will be fast. Thank you, Jennifer.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
Carry on.
And now I lost my train of thought, Sharon. Thanks a lot. So, no, it's all
I've
right.
done that to people before.
Either we mean it and we actually as a city want to see something done. We want to see smaller units, or we don't. Is this the perfect project? No, but we have an opportunity to do something, and I think we should. Next one on B, the variance in the masonry wall. So we on planning and zoning do have to go through the list of things like, does it meet the criteria or not? And there's this one that always sticks in my head, which is the hardship. And this is the hardship complained of is not a financial hardship only. The developer, the contractor who came to speak on behalf of this variance, contractor for the project, talked about how, concrete costs a whole lot more than wood, and their budget was really tight as it was. And not everybody else has this concrete. So, is there a possibility of too little sound control if a wooden fence goes up versus concrete? Yes, I believe there is. And with the Family Dollar, a truck coming in once a day, maybe it's not too noisy, but we don't know what the next commercial business going there looks like, or the next one after that, or what kind of noise they create. And the only reason these folks really need this hardship is to reduce their budget. And therefore it is a financial hardship only, and we should deny it. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. All right, you've been wanting to come talk for a while. Come on down. You have to be Ronnie. Thank you. Well. Oh.
My name is
Thank you.
Jim Gunn. I'm a senior partner in the development company that's bringing in the
You're going to have to speak into your mic a little closer. Thank
that's
you, sir.
bringing in the Family Dollar Tree here. We did appear before the planning and zoning. We did express the fact that it is a cost that we had not envisioned as far as putting a masonry fence was concerned. We were not actually asking for a total variance of no restrictions or sound variance. We were simply stating that we would like to put a wood fence up, and the developer building the houses would also be installing a wood fence. As you can see on the diagram, we're only really affecting 2 and a portion lot, and we're about 100 to 115 foot from the corner of the building to where the back of the house, proposed house would be. So between that 115, 130 foot, there would be two wooden fences that would help to take care of the sound. And I cannot state that I can guarantee what's going to happen in 10 years or 15 years or 20 years or 30 years. I can only tell you in the next 10 years with 5-6 year option to renew that the Family Dollar will be there. So we've driven around town. We've looked at some of the other places in town, and we're not asking for anything that's not present in some of the commercial properties at present time. There is a large detention pond behind us. There's a 7-Eleven type store to the left of us. There's a road that's going to be put in alongside of us. That road is going to have a lot more traffic going down it than we'll have on the right-hand side of the parking lot. We hope that that Family Dollar store has 30 cars there every minute of every hour that they're open. That's not going to happen. Most people will park as close to the front of the building as they can get, so the noise factor is not going to be that much. So we're asking for the variance, not really a variance. We're asking for the permission to install a wood fence around the perimeter as drawn on this sketch here. And that's basically it.
Question, how would you feel? I know that you're asking for a 6-foot tall wooden fence. I mean, we did this at a residential house over by the highway a few years ago it's over off Colorado somewhere. Do you remember that, Robert? Is it an 8 or a 10-foot fence?
Due to the topography of this particular residence on Charleston Boulevard in Colorado, Mr. Dale Gettler's place, the council authorized an 8-foot fence, which is 2 feet greater than the allowed 6-foot. So he
And it was
received
to
a
help with
variance.
some of the sound and stuff from the highway.
That was privacy, completely a privacy issue, and yeah, some sound, but mostly privacy.
So I guess where I was getting at is we've approved that before is, if people are talking about sound and what it could be, would an 8-foot fence be something that would be?
That's not a problem. 6 foot is 6 foot is just a standard height of
Correct.
most wooden fences. If we need to go to 8 foot, we can put that in.
You mentioned the homes, the lots 12, 13, and 14, that contractor's already putting a fence.
No, ma'am. Those have not been developed. The road has not been put in yet. So
Okay.
that's everything there is quote in the future.
That's the George McMahon.
Oh, that's
subdivision
okay, okay.
That goes up to meet where.
So, but
Lloyd's built.
if you put a 8-foot, you're talking about that, just that length right there, right? That 130 feet?
We would be putting it basically around the blue, where the blue is. It shows the corner of the bill, shows the dumpster container there coming around and all the way down into the drive. And that would leave that open space from there, then basically over to the property line of the residential homes when they're built.
Kind of wood are you using for the wooden fence? I mean, really,
No,
you start
not-
putting wooden
it-
fences up and they start deteriorating pretty quick and they look ugly.
We have the option of either using cedar or treated. I prefer cedar. It lasts a little bit longer, less maintenance on them, and you get a little less warpage. We will use the treated material for the vertical, the structural portion, but the pickets along the fence will be cedar.
Tom?
Questions. One, you made reference to the fact that Dollar Tree will be here for 10 years and you have, I think you said 3 6-year renewal options. Is that right?
No, sir, by our contract, they have 5-6 year renewables in their lease with us
Beyond the 10-year primary?
beyond the 10-year primary.
So you're familiar with the lease. Do they have a go dark provision? Do they have to operate or can they sublet and go dark?
they can go dark. They do not sublet. Now what they have done in the past is they've converted a Family Dollar into a Dollar Tree combination store. And that's just to have more product for but as far as, you know, if there's no business in Smithville, which I'm not worried about that. They do have the right to vacate. They will continue to make the payments for 10 years. So the building will be maintained, but they can, and they have, you know, and
Do you know if you have the right to recapture if they go dark?
if we wanted to basically terminate if for instance, you came to me and said, I'd like to lease this building from, you know, and put something in there, we then could go back either to the owner or to ourselves and say, all right, we'll terminate the lease. You can buy out the lease, pay us the 5 years or 2 years or whatever, and we'll release you from that. Then we can turn around then and release that store to yourself or whatever tenant might come in.
I'm assuming that the reason we have masonry as a requirement is we believe that it provides better sound attenuation than wood. Fair statement, city manager?
That's a fair statement.
And then,
Yes, it is.
and do we have any kind of sense for cost differentiation? Do you have any sense for what you would have to pay extra if you had to do masonry?
A masonry fence, a 6-foot masonry fence. Now this masonry can be CMU block. It can be brick. It can be 5 foot by 2 foot limestone blocks
Yeah.
that we could stack on top of each other out there. That's probably a little more than double the cost of a wood fence. And that again, just depends on the material and how far we've got to take it.
And then
Councilmember Etheridge, I want to add something I don't think that Mr. Gunn made clear. You've got one side of the wooden fence being put up by a Family Dollar Tree. Mr. McMahon has plans to require a per deed restriction. The other side has to be fenced as well. So that's 2 wooden fences back to back.
And I think, and that was another point I think is worthy of making, is you have that vacuum, that space in between provides a pretty good sound buffer
Area.
itself. And then I know there was reference maybe in the package or someone said that there's other, maybe the Dairy Queen or others that utilize wood. Do we know that to be? the
Yes,
case?
sir. It is. The Dairy Queen is wood.
And the reason I asked the question about the go dark and everything is, you know, the last thing we want in Smithville is a vacant building. The fact that they're paying you rent is great for you, but not necessarily for the citizens if it's a vacant building. So I would love to see, I was hoping you would say, yeah, if they don't occupy for more than 30 days, we have the right to recapture the space and lease it to someone else. I
There,
would hope you would do that. So you would have
there are
the-
things in there. If they don't pay me my rent,
Well, I know that that's.
then I can do what I want to.
Yeah, I
But-
understand that could allow you to recapture.
We're tied into a lease for 10 years, basically, and they have the right then for that 10 years to do their business. And if they decide to pull out, then I don't think you're going to have that problem here.
I just asked, I was just
Never know.
curious. Thank you.
I'd like to say your development so far is looking really good.
Thank you. All right. Sorry to Dallas Taylor. I passed you up. Will never happen again. Yes, to the mic. You have to state where you live too.
Herda Estates. Smithville, Texas. So everybody knows that we have an old building and we can only do so much with it, whether we, convert it into commercial or something else. I know it's very, challenging on figuring out, especially for us too, as far as the P and Z rules and what you can ask for and what you can't ask for and everything. And the thing is I know that everybody sees the parking as an issue, but if you physically go and you stand in front of the building and you look to your left at Clarence's, everybody parks the same way we're going to park. You look to your right where there's a residence, everybody parks the same way as what I'm asking to park as. So I've measured out a lot of stuff in the city as far as like parking spaces and everything like that. I've done my math as far as what the parking requirements are. They say 8 by 20 spots. So practically we could get 6 spots in front of there. Is that going to be tight? Yes. Is that the requirement? Yes. But we're only asking for 4. And to put 2 in a garage. As far as the motion of affordable housing and stuff like that, I think it's a definition of a lot of different things. But you have a square footage of a building or whatever, and the more you cut it up, the lower the price is going to be. That's just how life is. As far as I've had feedback on, well, I don't know if the units might be too small or something like that, but as far as the unit sizes go or whatever, the requirements are for a 1-bedroom, 600 square feet. And we're going to have 2 at 638. The 2-bedroom requirements are say 800 feet. And we're going to have, 1 at 1311. I don't know. I'm open for questions.
Really have any questions. I mean, it's more of a comment. The issue about the parking, I think there's a couple of things to consider. One is the comment, the observation made by Councilmember Barrientos, I think is a valid one. We all drive around town and we realize that that's what happened. There's a safety issue too, and involves sight lines. And I will tell you at 5th and Ramona, there is a very dangerous situation where people are allowed to park in front of the house. This is a property that's probably a 2-bedroom, 2-bath house. It sits on the northwest corner of Ramona and 5th. A lot of people come down 5th Street from Brookshire's. You cannot, when you're traveling on Ramona, you cannot see the traffic coming down 5th Street. And it's because there's 6 or 8 cars parked in front of the house. And it isn't that those cars necessarily block the asphalt or the vehicular traffic. They provide a sightline obstruction for other cars as well as kids on bicycles and people that might be walking dogs. So I'm very sympathetic to the rental housing, and I've been in real estate a long time, and I believe in density. I believe this particular location might warrant an exception because it's kind of essentially in the core part of town, even though there is a residential. I think if we think about Smithville in 5 to 7 or 10 years, I think you'll see 1 to 2 blocks on each side of Main Street become more mixed use and commercial. So I'm certainly more inclined to try to hold my nose a little bit or scratch my head, but I'm really serious. And this conversation is going to come up later when we talk about the new code enforcement officer. We've got to find a way to be thinking about safety when we think about cars on the street as it relates to kids riding bicycles, because we don't have sidewalks everywhere in this town. So I just want to be clear. My comment about the off-street parking isn't necessarily because I don't want people to be able to utilize off-street parking. There are some other factors that have to do with safety that are of concern to me.
To piggyback off of what he said, I like that you brought that up because obviously the safety of our citizens is of the utmost importance. I walk around this town. I've walked up 5th and Ramona multiple times. Our kids ride our bikes everywhere and scooters, and I walk with a stroller. So I understand that. But I think to the point that you made in that particular section, when you stand in front of that building, whether they parked there or not, there is plenty of room on each side that and places that they can park without obstructing any view of anything more than any other car on the side of the street would if they were in front of my house or, you know, in front of so-and-so's house off of Short Street. You know what I mean? So I just want to make sure that I hear you, and I think that's a valid point, but I also want to make sure that everybody understands where this particular building is. I don't think that an obstruction of view is going to cause that much of a problem. And Second Street is very wide as well, in my opinion, than some of the other streets. So
Yes, Mr. Taylor, tell me how you came up with this vision for this old building and how you, I mean, did you own this building for a long time? Because I think the vision is brilliant because we do need workforce affordable housing. That's my first question. Tell me how you came up with that. And then secondly, when you say 640 square feet is a good size, I think. I mean, I've got a little cabin that's 640 square feet. In fact, our clinic's 640 square feet and it's beautiful. It fits everything that we need in it. What kind of, what kind of price range would you charge for somebody that would be in a 640 square foot building in the city of Smithville? I mean, a price range.
Well, as far as addressing the question of where we came up with this idea and everything like that is this building has been owned by my mother for I don't know how many years, but she inherited or bought into a big problem or whatever that was more than what she could handle. So this is an opportunity to, reclaim the area and to do something good that's in a trash building for right now. But as far as coming up with the plan, I mean, we threw it around a couple different ways, but this is the best way that we could fit, that we could get the most out of the structure that's already there to make it, least cost for upcoming tenants or anything like that. I don't really have, and I know I'm on the record here as far as a number for like what the 1 bedroom would cost or something like that, but I'm thinking between 5 to 750. I'm not really for sure, but you understand that there's already a lot of bones there, so it's not going to take as much as a new structure or whatever else, and that's something that we could capitalize on cost to feed back into the next tenant.
Experience. I mean, you said your mom owned the building, and then did you have experience with like coming up with this vision to do this, or is this something that you do all the time?
I do a lot of different stuff, but this is not my specialty, and I've learned that you bounce ideas off of people and come up with great things. So
And how long has it sat there? I know it's been there a long time, and every time I go by, there was a bathtub out there for a long time, and I was like, when are we going to do something with that?
every time we have like cleaned out so much stuff that was in there, it was horrible. And I get stories about stuff. And there's a lot of people that stop by and tell me the history of that building, what it used to be, that it used to be a car lot. It used to be this, and like all this history about this building that I have no idea about, but the building does have a lot of history. So
Like to see like if this is a historical building, right? At least if you could write that history out, it'd be sort of nice, right? We'd like to know what the history is, especially because it's in the downtown area, and as the city grows, you could be a real focal point because we don't have much multifamily living downtown.
yes, ma'am.
Anybody else have a question?
I
for
did want to
Dallas?
state that we had a neighbor, actually 2 neighbors or whatever, that they were a little bit confused on what we were trying to do at first. And they had concerns of drainage or whatever else, because there is some drainage problems in there. And that's why the building is in the shape that it's in. And anyways, I just want to let you know that, as far as watershed or whatever, we're going to be creating about 102 square feet less water collection or whatever to have to distribute through the city water drainage. And I know that project is to come, in that area. And I know that's a concern in that area, but
I just like to say, I think you're doing is great. I was not aware when I made my comments earlier that you were working within the existing building. I think that's commendable. And with Monica's glowing endorsement of your plans, I think I
There's a
have a much more
drawing that didn't
positive
quite make
perspective
it.
on it.
But it shows that, you know, what's being made smaller and where the existing building is. And it was at P and Z, but I'm sorry, didn't make it to this meeting. Thank you.
Well, I spoke to Dallas. I did not realize they were keeping the building either. And after looking at it and seeing his plan, I feel like it would be a great asset. And that's just my opinion.
Just out of curiosity, what kind of exterior materials?
We're looking at like maybe a rock or something like that on the front. And I don't know, we want to kind of keep, you know, as much room in the alley as possible. We're leaning maybe towards like a metal fascia or something like that on the alley side. I'm not really for sure on that. It's
So composition shingle roof, metal roof,
metal roof.
metal roof. Okay. Well, I would just share with colleagues. I mean, I really do think this is kind of the core of downtown. It's certainly right on the edge. If somebody else brings in let's say it's an SF1 property next door to this, because there's SF1 all around this area. Somebody brings in an SF1 and it's 4,500 or 5,000 square feet, and they want to build all the way essentially with no setbacks, and they want to do 3 multifamily units, and they want to have all off-street parking. Are we going to have a heartburn with that when we just approve this one? I think we just need to think about that. I'll go on record. I'm actually for it. I'm actually supportive of it overall, but I will tell you that I'm hopeful that it doesn't just die as one lot that sneaks in under a cumulative zoning. That if somebody, because this is always happens, is you have commercial lines and then you have single family, and then some of the single families start converting. If somebody comes in with a comparable plan with these kind of variances, it's going to be really difficult for us to have approved these, because these are extensive variances. When you go from a 15,000 square foot minimum to 4,000, that is a significant variance. Okay, that isn't a minor variance. And so if somebody comes in with something essentially the same, it's going to be really hard for us to turn somebody else down. So I just want us to think about that.
So
'cause
we're
I want us
setting
to
a
apply
precedent.
this thing fairly if somebody else comes in.
So what you're saying, we're setting a precedent.
I think I view it that way personally. I would have a hard time being inconsistent in the application.
But when you think of all the places around there where, I guess, outside of clearances,
Well,
right?
So I've always thought about taking that Mars Jones Funeral Home, and that could be multifamily housing. I'll bet you that would require a lot of variance.
Boy, and right across the street, catty corner from Pine, Steve Simmons owns a lot there that's being used for nothing. It, was potentially a parking lot for Pine Hotel at some point. I'm for this. This is exciting. You get one deal like this done and it can build momentum, but we should be thinking about precedent and what this does, because those streets adjacent to Main Street will develop and people will come in and want to do multifamily.
Can we make a motion?
No, I gotta go back. I have to.
Oh, yeah.
I know. Okay, so I will adjourn. Thank you, Dallas.
Thank you.
I will close the public hearing and go back into the open meeting. Next item on the agenda is sir? No? Oh. Next item on the agenda is discussion and action on multiple variances requested at 205 Northeast Second Street, parcel ID 84198, property owner Janice Taylor, agent Dallas Taylor.
Mayor, I move that we approve all variances requested for 205 Northeast Second Street, parcel ID 84198, property owner Janice Taylor, agent Dallas Taylor.
I'll second.
Do we have?
Don't we have to read?
Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry.
variances?
I'm sitting here looking at it too. Sorry, y'all.
Oh, I
Sorry.
would say, I think something else goes with this.
With the following findings, the variance will not be contrary to the public interest, and there are special conditions affecting the applicant's property. And because of the special conditions, literal enforcement of the ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship. And the variance observes the spirit of the ordinance, and substantial justice is done by granting the variance.
Okay, now I'll second it.
Excuse me, point of order, you need to go through and list what those variances are as they are written here. You did great with the
Yeah.
the criteria, but now
Okay.
you have to on
Let's try
record.
this again for the third time. Sorry, everybody. I move for approval of the following variances. 1 front yard setback, 2 side yard setback, 3 rear yard setback.
Councilmember Barrientos, you need to put the actual dimension, so it's in the record as to what the variance is.
Okay.
Look at the council notes. You can do it there.
Oh, fourth time's a charm. I move for approval of a variance for 1 front yard side back of a 25-foot variance. Number 2, a side yard setback for a west side variance of 24 feet 2 inches and east side 14 foot. For 3, rear yard setback at 25-foot variance. A minimum lot size variance of 4,051 square feet instead of 15,000. 5, a maximum lot coverage to allow 76% from 70%. 6, 6 off-street parking to go from 6 to 2. And 7, open space for 30% to 24%. Because with the following findings, the variance will not be contrary to the public interest, and there are special conditions affecting the applicant's property. And because of the special conditions, literal enforcement of the ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship. And the variance observes the spirit of the ordinance, and substantial justice is done by granting the variance.
Second it.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor? 1, 2. Motion is approved. Okay, here we go to the B. On a variance request for a masonry wall or equivalent noise attenuating, I should have practiced that, barrier, addition site design standard for the Highway Commercial District for property ID 8717857, property owner George McMahon, agent Ronnie Kettler.
Mayor, sorry.
No. Yeah.
I
Practice
don't know
does
how
make
good
perfect.
at practice right now. Mayor, I move that we approve a variance request for a wooden fence instead of a masonry wall as a noise attenuating barrier to separate
Attenuating.
commercial from residential use. With the following findings, the variance will not be contrary to the public interest, and there are special conditions affecting the applicant's property. And because of the special conditions, literal enforcement of the ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship. And the variance observes the spirit of the ordinance, and substantial justice is done by granting the variance. Oh. Do I have to change? Do I have to reread that all again if I say I would prefer an 8-foot fence? Does there anybody care about that?
May
I
make
can't
a
do that?
comment on that. I don't think an 8-foot fence is going to be any more
Sound.
attenuating than a 6-foot fence. I think it would be inconsistent with the fences in the area, and it would also
Then
require the
stick with
same.
a 6-foot fence.
Very good.
Member Barrientos, are you going to restate your motion? Are you going to, if you are, oh, she doesn't? Okay,
Because
would
it
you,
is a
would you
6-foot.
mind amending? There is reference in here to the fact that there is deed restrictions in place to ensure that there's going to be a second fence. Well, the lots behind, can we make that part of the approval, is that there will be a requirement for the second
Do I
fence?
need to
You don't have to reread it, I don't think, as long as you'll accept that as an amendment to your motion. I think she can pick that up.
Yes, I
Because
would
that's what's
accept
stated
that
in
to
the
an
motion.
amendment
That's what's
to
gonna
my
be voted.
motion.
Because that provides a little bit of
What he
extra
said.
buffer than just a single wood privacy.
Are you good, Jennifer? Okay, now I'll take a second.
Second.
Ooh.
A motion has been made and second. All in favor? 1, 2. Approved. Discussion and action. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, discussion and action on resolution responding to the application of CenterPoint Energy Resources Corporation, South Texas Division to increase rates under the Gas Reliability Infrastructure Program, suspending the effective date of the rate application for 45 days. Robert?
Okay, Council and Mayor, this is something we are doing more frequently. We belong to a group called the Alliance of Center Point Municipalities. And this is just a group of folks who have CenterPoint Energy as a customer within their jurisdiction. The ACM is represented by the law firm of Herrera Law and Associates. We don't really have any control to tell CenterPoint that they can't raise the rates, but we can suspend the date that it goes into effect. What CenterPoint, and you have this in your packets, and it should be up here. Yes, what CenterPoint is requesting, they want to increase the residential and commercial rates by 13 to 18 cents, 13 to 18% respectively. Currently, the residential rate increase they want is $3.72 a month for and $7.51 for commercial. This will give you a bill of $30.75 for residential and $48.93 for commercial respectively. Again, we have no way of telling them what their rates and what they can charge and can't charge, but we can suspend the effective date by 45 days should you approve this resolution.
You want a motion?
Yes.
I move we approve resolution number 2023-03-501. I don't think we need to say anything else, do we? That's a resolution number.
need a second. I'll second it.
To suspend the rate,
Yeah, to suspend.
to
the rate.
suspend the rate for 45 days with the effective date being
15
To
June.
15. Okay, so that motion second, all in favor? Y'all in favor? Approved. All righty. Next item on the agenda, discussion and action on a resolution awarding the home grant construction contract.
Okay, Council and Mayor, this is one that we work with Langford Community Management Services Group. This is the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs program called the Home Grant Program. There have been 4 homes identified for reconstruction. There are 203 Cleveland, 203 Washington, 611 Gasly, and 415 Gasly. The base bid and the bid matrix are in your packets. We did go out for bid, competitive bid on this. There was one construction contractor who responded, and that was RM Quality Construction LLC. And the base bids are shown up there accordingly. We do have a commitment of $5,400 per home grant home as our match. And as Randy Maloff Construction was the only responsive bidder, we recommend that you award the contract to them.
Madam Mayor, I move we approve a resolution awarding the home grant construction contract to RM Quality Construction LLC.
The motion.
A motion has been made and second, all in favor? Approved.
One thing I'd like to add, council, is it typically takes 3 to 4 months to build these homes, and once complete, this would be the 25th. 25 homes have been built in Smithville since 2003. Excellent program. So thank you for your support.
Next item is discussion and action on a resolution endorsing HB 2717 that would limit train length in Texas. We have 3 train men here.
I have council, we have, and Mayor, we have Gary Padego and Cameron Saunders. They represent the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers and Trainmen and the Sheet Metal Air Rail Transportation Group.
And
Division.
Kenneth Friend is also here representing the railroad.
Okay. So it's not uncommon for us to, especially in the morning or dropping off kids or picking up kids in the afternoon, that some train is blocking the road. And this has happened over the period of the last decade. The trains are becoming louder and longer. It's not uncommon for a 10,000-foot train to come, rock train to come through our community, sometimes 15,000 feet, but that's a three mile train. Under the right circumstances, every crossing in Smithville could be blocked, which isolates emergency services personnel from getting to and from both sides of the tracks. House Bill 2717 would limit the length of those trains coming through our community to 8,500 feet. It's sponsored by District 143 Representative Anna Hernandez. No, not our municipal court clerk or assistant judge, but her doppelganger. I digress. If you endorse this resolution, it will help our legislators know where you stand with respect to this bill.
Yes.
I would also add that I did talk to our Representative Gertis, and he's supportive of this as well as the other House bill we're going to be contemplating.
Perfect.
Can I make a comment about the railroad and the bridge? No, I just want to also make folks aware that Jill Strube and I are looking at a grant. It's a $500 million grant. Of course, we've got to talk with Union Pacific first, but this has to do with relocation of the rail. So if you have railroad folks here, they probably think this is pretty crazy, but they're doing this in rural areas all over. And it might be a perfect opportunity for us to apply for this $500 million or whatever piece of it we can get to eliminate that crossing at Highway 95.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion on what's on the board.
Madam,
Brian moved. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Gordon, you go
well,
ahead.
actually, I wanted to make a comment as well.
Okay.
This is something that I've lived with for most of my life. This problem with crossing the tracks. We had a school that burned down many, many years ago. One of the difficulties was that the people who put out the fire had difficulty getting to the building. And if we had probably more volunteers who could somehow jump over those trains that were here, we may have still had that Rosenwald School. Anyway, having said that, I'd like to make a motion, Madam Mayor, to approve a resolution endorsing House Bill 2717 that would limit the train length in Texas.
Second.
A motion has been made and second. All in favor? Approved. Item 14, discussion and action on a resolution for broadband.
Okay, Council and Mayor, here's another piece of legislation that's sponsored by District 9 Representative Trent Ashby. House Bill 9 would develop broadband telecommunications or appropriations that funding that could be given to underserved communities to increase the availability of broadband. This is like 2717. If you approve this resolution, it can be communicated to our legislatures that you're in full support.
Can I make a comment, Madam Mayor? I was at a briefing the other day. It's called Bringing Online Opportunities. It's called Boots. It's another program. This was put on at the CapCog meeting that I attended. There's a $42.5 million digital opportunity. I think that's what Robert's referring to serve the underserved areas. One of the things that came out was, if y'all remember, we had this Connected Nation. We were working on a map called Connected Nation. We worked on figuring out where all the holes were for as far as underserved areas not having broadband. Well, now we go back to the drawing boards. Something that came out of this meeting is we are now using the FCC map. That is going to be the map that will be used to determine where we do not have broadband. So maybe next council meeting or something like that, I can give a quick presentation on what that means. Oh, CapCog is your Capital Area Council of Government. It incorporates the 10 counties in the capital area region, and Bastrop County is in that region.
I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the resolution for our broadband HB 19. HB 9.
A motion has been made and second. All in favor? 1, 2, 3. Approved. Discussion and action on ordinance amending ordinance 9903-334 to correctly include the alley in block 10. Mount Pleasant Addition is being closed, vacated, and abandoned.
Council members and mayor, this is an action we are requesting to correct an administrative error that occurred back in 1999. Will you put the drawing up? This is a plat of, the hill. I came before the city council at the time in 1999 with, city manager Bob Miller, requesting that the city abandon all streets and alleys of the property, shown above. At the same time, Patsy Ray Caldwell also had a letter requesting the alleys be abandoned on block 10. As I said, this was an administrative error. You can see letters in your packets from Ms. Caldwell requesting that alley be abandoned. And it didn't get put into the books, so to speak. It is the only alley currently shown on BCAD, and it's an alley to nowhere. So if you approve to amend this ordinance, this will correct that mistake.
Robert, all of the owners, if you were to file this request today as a new request, it would meet all the requirements, correct or incorrect?
This is correct. All of the owners adjacent to this property, there are letters that we have acquired back in 1999, but yes, correct.
How was this discovered? Like what brought this on?
It was associated with trying to clear out an estate of Patsy Ray Caldwell. So a survey was performed and it was identified that, hey, wait a minute, there's an alley.
Gotcha. Okay.
Back for the record, describe the relationship among the
Sure.
different parties.
The deceased is my mother-in-law, Patsy Ray Caldwell. This was her property.
Mayor, I'll make a motion.
Go ahead.
I move that we amend the ordinance 9903-334 to correctly include the alley in block 10 Mount Pleasant addition as described in the package.
I'll second the motion.
Motion has been made and second. All in favor? Approved. Thank you. Discussion and possible action on changes to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Ms. Kilgore, are you ready to speak? And please state where you live.
Hello, this is on. Hi, Lee Kilgore. I live at 403 Ramona. Thank you for letting me speak. In terms of the planning and zoning, I understand the request is to move from 5 commissioners to 7. Based on my experience with the city of Houston, the people who go to planning and zoning, especially in the city of Houston, are developers, realtors, et cetera. It's my opinion that when you bring volunteers forward that understand what the ordinances are, you have a group of 5 people who meet quorum on a routine basis, that system works. And that I don't feel like it's necessary to go to 7. Just wanted to bring my opinion forward to you guys, let you know about it. Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you, Ms. Kilgore.
Okay, Council Mayor, I'm going to interject here. Councilmember Etheridge requested this be on the agenda. We've been working on this. It was actually postponed from a prior agenda so we could do more research and benchmarking. In the council package, you will find feedback from current planning and zoning members and city staff regarding going from 5 to 7 participants or commissioners. They also have feedback. It wasn't just to increase the size, it was to increase the scope and document, clean up some of the administrative omissions or provide clarity in the current ordinance. Did I pretty much capture that, Councilman Etheridge?
And I appreciate it, Mayor, to have the floor.
Yeah.
Okay, a particular interest to me, those that know me, is governance. And not too long ago, a few months ago, I asked Jennifer to provide us with, or provide me with, a list of kind of all the, I'll call them the charter documents. The city effectively delegates a number of important activities to about 5 or 6 boards and commissions. The planning and zoning is arguably one of the more important ones or critical ones because of the nature of what it deals with. But we also have the airport authority. We have Smithville Hospital Authority, even though we don't own that property, we do appoint 3 of the 7 board members. We have Smithville Housing Authority, we have the Library Board, and we have the long name or the Historic Preservation Commission or Board. So we have a number of boards and commissions that we have chartered at different points in the past that to me made a lot of sense to look at their purpose. Has it changed, or how are they performing? So this is more just to get some discussion about what is the appropriate structure and operating mechanisms for P and Z. I think it's one of the more critical ones. It deals with very important land use issues. We saw a lot of that on display tonight, with some of the technical nature of some of the issues and the ability to be able to explain that and people to understand even the right questions to ask. The meetings are also broadcast on YouTube, so that's a highly visible, commission in town. I want to make it clear, going from 5 to 7 is not the critical aspect for me. I'm perfectly fine with it staying at 5. I think Robert put together a list of a peer group analysis, and of the 5, I think 3 of them were at 5 and 2 of them were at 7. So there's a range of members. But what's more important to me is that we have enough people on there, a preponderance of membership that has sufficient technical and subject matter expertise to even know what the right questions are to ask, and then to be able to vote or recommend in a way that it becomes useful for us at the council when we hear that recommendation. The second thing is that we always have a senior official from the city present at P and Z, because I think it's very important for planning and zoning. I know it's even important for council members to be able to look to either Jack or Robert or city staff and say, listen, you guys deal with this every day. The ordinance is good or better than anyone. What's your opinion? How do you feel? What are the things we should be thinking about? So I think going from 5 to 7 would have some benefits. One is it would allow you to bring on some subject matter expertise without necessarily asking some of the existing members to roll off. That's never my intention. This is not about replacing any existing members. It's about improving the quality of the membership in terms of their ability to understand the issues that they're asked to deal with. I also would like to get consensus that we're going to have senior staff from the city there to help them, when they have questions about processes or what types of things they need to be considering. And then lastly, make sure we have some written documented rules of procedures so everybody on the commission knows who votes, who doesn't, how the processes work, and have that being right, and have some education around that. So that's kind of an overview. I did go through and kind of redline because I felt like there were just some administrative things that need to be cleaned up. I would personally be comfortable, changing the red line from 7 and leaving it at 5 if the rest of the matters could stay the same. I just would like to see the quality of that, improve.
Tom, you added formal training of its members on the procedures and protocols, and then voting procedures and protocols, correct? Those are the 2 that you added to the document. Okay.
Well, I mean, he also added number 4 on the first page. The commission shall be comprised of preponderance of members possessing subject matter expertise and demonstrated technical expertise in the matter and most typically presented, right?
That's true. And this is the only commission and board, I think, that, the membership is appointed by the city manager with the consent or the confirmation of the council. So that's obviously a little bit subjective. It directs the city manager to take into account the subject matter expertise when he vets potential candidates. Obviously, it's not a fast and true number, and I can't tell you exactly what constitutes that, but I think we all know the types of things that come before planning and zoning. We've seen a lot of those on display tonight. It's nice to have the diversity that comes with having membership that have lived in Smithville a long time and have some perspective on history. I'm not suggesting it should all be engineers or attorneys, but we need to have a sufficient number of people on the committee to have that expertise. And if you did go to 7, that gives you the ability to add some of those people while still retaining some of the diversity in other areas. Again, the 5 to 7 is not the real focus for me. It's improving the overall output there, which makes our job a little easier too. When it comes to us, we feel like we're getting a little higher quality, bit of information. Not that what we saw tonight wasn't. I actually thought tonight's presentation was very good and informative.
Yes, ma'am.
I would just like to add for the benefit of the council, I did respond to Tom on his suggestions. And a couple of comments I had back to him is, I do think that staying at 5 for the current time is appropriate. We've always had trouble filling these boards with qualified, interested applicants. And hopefully as we grow, that will change, and perhaps we might consider a larger number in the future. But for right now, I think, with 5, we've had no problem getting quorums. And I think that's the thing that I would feel most comfortable with right now. The other comment I had on this item 4, I like the idea of having some members of the council or of the commission that have subject matter expertise as far as development and building issues. But I feel it's equally important to have, or probably more important than the subject matter expertise, just to have people with good general knowledge and experience, not necessarily of Smithville, but just of the issues that a community faces in making decisions regarding any changes to the ordinances, because primarily planning and zoning is approving either changing in zoning classes or approving variances from the ordinances as stated. Where I'd really like to see us bring in the subject matter expertise is in the upcoming comprehensive plan, because if we define the ordinances consistent with our vision for the future, then we should have fewer variances. So that, I'd like to see the subject matter expertise definitely brought into the comprehensive plan. And if we do that correctly, then I think just good general common sense, a willingness to learn and understand the rules of procedure and also the ordinances that are involved would be more important than necessarily the expertise. Those are my comments.
Bill, Janice, Cassie, do you have anything to add? Everybody good? Robert?
Be advised that this was kind of a summary of what's reflected in our actual ordinance language, which was on the first page after item 16. So what you revised, Councilmember Etheridge, is just a summary document. We need to revise and put the inserts into this document to make it official and then bring it back. Okay, if that's what you would like me to do.
That's good. Like I said, the most important thing to me was that we get this on the agenda, that we start having some discussion, because I know I've attended some meetings myself where it wasn't real clear who voted and who didn't. It wasn't real clear what the procedures were. And I would like to see that be rectified. I mean, this is a meeting that's broadcast on YouTube. And I think we need to make sure that the people have the tools they need. It's our job to make sure they have the tools they need to do it the right way. And part of those tools is education and good guidance. So I would defer to you as to what's the right process. This is not something I feel strongly has to happen tonight. I just wanted to get some dialogue going about this. And I would love to see us look at these other 5 or 6 in a similar way, which is revisit, is their charter 18 years or 22 years old and no longer applicable? And do we need to look at these again to make sure that they're functioning the way that we think they ought to function for today's time?
One last comment, there's always opportunity for improvement. We do get this packet to the Planning and Zoning Commission well in advance, and I will say every effort has been made to make sure that there is city representation. On a very blue moon, Jack was out, I was sick, so there have been times we have not had representation. And as luck would have it, Mr. Murphy, that's the time when they needed us there the most.
6 variances, if I remember right. So thank you.
Remember, Ed's here now, so he's trying to hide. Because, okay, I'll entertain a motion, or we need to, what do we have to do here?
Why don't I do this? Based on the advice that Robert just gave, why don't we remand this to you to take another look, bring it back in the spirit of what the red line was, change it from 7 to 5, go back to the 7 and 5, incorporate anything that you think is appropriate to incorporate, and then bring it back at the next meeting. We can revisit it then for possible action.
Are you
Is that
good?
okay with everyone else?
Okay. On to the next item. Turn the page. Discussion and action, no. You do? Jennifer said no.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
she said no.
and you'll record what in the minutes, what we decide. Okay.
Okay, so we're good. Okay, 17, discussion and action on the reappointment of the members to the Smithville Library Board.
All right, council, this is something that happens every year, and these are reappointments that Judy Bergeron is requesting. She's met with each of the reappointees. They all expressed a desire to serve again, and in your packets, you will find their application. And if you have any questions, you can ask Ms. Bergeron, or you can ask me.
I do have a question. Miss Judy, can you explain? Oh, sorry. I guess I should let you come up.
For everyone that doesn't know, this is Judy Bergeron, our library lady.
Hi. Can you please explain to everybody what the board does for the library?
The library is an advisory board and we meet 6 times a year, odd numbered months on the last Wednesday, and talk about the operations of the library and where we want to go with the library, things we want to do with the library. We have several committees and the board members represent those committees that they report on the genealogy, the technology for the library, expansion of the library, possible future expansion, our programming, our interaction with the schools, our literacy programs. So they will then take what they learn and what they hear from the community, and they act as a liaison between the library and the community, as well as the library and the council.
Perfect. Thank you.
Very nice.
Up for reappointment are Crystal Gutierrez, place 1, Danny Absher, place 2, Dennis McGinnis, place 3.
And I'll say all 3 of them have served admirably, and I was very happy to learn that they were willing to come back for another term. And Danny is here with us this evening, so I want to give him a shout out and a thanks for serving. He only got to serve 1 year so far because we were in transition when we put him on the board. So
Very good.
In place 8 for the vacant, the teen, what is that?
we have a teen representative or a spot for a teen representative, and I have yet to identify a teen that is willing to serve, is not on their way out of town because they're going to college and things like that. So we've got to find somebody that's qualified and willing. So
Awesome. Okay. Thank you.
You do a great job.
thank you.
Anybody have any other questions for Judy? Entertain a motion?
Can I make a motion?
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we reappoint Crystal Gutierrez, reappointment place 1, Dane Absher, reappointment place 2, and Dennis McGinnis, reappointment place 3 for the library board.
I second.
A motion has been made and second. All in favor? Approved. Oh,
Really,
yes.
Judy, I know it was a little over a year ago. You were one of the ones I sat down with. I sat down with the chair or people involved in all of these advisory boards and commissions, and you had a lot of vacancies and you filled all those vacancies with quality people. So I appreciate that.
Well, you're welcome. And having sat down with you, it was our impetus to create the application for the city advisory boards. And I think they work wonderfully to let the candidates show what they have and who they are. So thank you.
Thank you. On to Cynthia's favorite part, approval of the financial report. It's your turn. No, it's not on. Okay, speak louder. Okay.
Yes. Okay, you should have received in your council packet the February financial report. As you can see, overall, our revenues are currently exceeding our expenditures by 496,000, which is good. Most of that is in again, the general fund. And if you look at our reserves in both the general and utility, our fund balance is, doing really well at this time. I don't see any issues with any of that. I don't know if y'all have any questions on it. And I know Tom does probably.
All right, lay it on her.
Okay, I appreciate you gave me some offline, but the one about the recyclables are about 3,600 in sales versus a budget of 22,000. Any guidance on why our receivable sales are really low? Is it because of staffing, timing?
I'm not sure. I don't know if they picked up. I mean, I know we used to get quarterly payments and stuff like that. I haven't seen any.
I mean, our run rate's about 42% and our revenue's about 16.
I know
so we're
there for a
behind.
while, they were really good. I would have to look into it to see when the last time we collected it, because I don't remember off the top of my head.
Right. The other is hot tax report. We talked a little bit offline. You didn't get one for this month. Do you think it's because you didn't disperse any money this month? Or
Well, I didn't disperse any and I did not request it. If y'all want one every month, I will get one, or do you want it?
no, I just
quarterly?
want whatever we all agreed that they would do. If they're not supposed to do it every month, then I wouldn't suggest. I mean, I would think something maybe quarterly at least.
Quarterly,
Whatever you think's appropriate. I just wanted to make
because I
sure
know
we're
we
getting it.
pay them on a quarterly basis. So if that would be okay, when I can make sure that I do get one quarterly.
Mayor, I just wanted to make a comment, and I already complimented Ashley. She's already gone, but as far as revenues go, because I watched the rec center revenues, and she put together an excellent report this month. And I've really seen a lot of activity going on at the rec center. So I just wanted to compliment her publicly. And I noticed her revenues she's bringing in the money this year.
More into the reporting, I think, but I noticed the community clinic once again is showing that they're low on funding and their balances are low. Is there any, do you know, Janice, if there's any planned contributions or things coming? Is there anything we as a council need to be worried about that service in the community not having the resources it needs to continue to do what it does?
We, you asked that last council meeting, and we had applied through the St. David's Foundation for another behavioral health grant. And we just got notification 2 weeks ago that grant will start 1 July. So I believe we'll be okay.
Because it says here, we'll expend all the money by the end of March.
Correct. But we have money through the end of June to cover behavioral health services. And then St. David's Foundation will pick up on 1 July.
Okay, so you think you're okay?
Yes.
Questions for Cynthia? I'll entertain a motion.
Financials, Mayor, as presented.
Good job, Cynthia. All in favor? Approved. We have a few things going on. We've been working hard toward It's Texas Time, and this year we were notified that we won again for the 6th year in a row. Thank you, Smithville, Texas, for getting out there and getting healthy and exercising. The Economic Development Workshop is tomorrow night here at 5 p.m., Tuesday, March 14th. The brush dump closed until further notice. Robert will tell us a little bit about that.
Too much further into it, but yeah, we had a fire, a smoldering pile of mulch, basically. And we need to shut the brush dump down until that pile burns itself out. We met with the Texas Forest Service, and they said that's the best thing to do. Don't disturb it. You'll aerate the ashes and cause a bigger problem. So you're going to see a smoldering for the next 2 or 3 days until that fire extinguishes itself out. We did do a fire break this morning, and we have a close patrol that's going out every 2 hours to check that through the night. There is equipment staged, a bulldozer and a brush truck ready to be used if it's needed. If there are issues, the fire department will be toned out accordingly. Thank you, Mr. Washington, for your service. And anyone else that's a fire department member, appreciate you. That's where we are. So
Yeah,
the brush dump's going to be closed.
Thank you, volunteer fire department, for keeping us safe, and we really appreciate it. And if you have not met, we have a new code enforcement officer. Her name is Lisa Pierce. She's very personal. Come by and tell her hello. If you have not met her, she's going to do a great job for the city of Smithfield.
A little more, she has actually served as a peace officer. She has her basic peace officer's license. She's a licensed plumbing inspector and a licensed code enforcement officer and a canine handler. So you're getting a pretty good package here. So Lisa
So is-
Pierce,
Is she still with the city of Flatonia or she's with us?
that was a signature block error. She is with us full time.
Okay, very good.
And she's officed here in the city facility, so you can come and speak to her at any time, and she's very knowledgeable. And on March 25th at 10 a.m., the opening ceremony for the Little League will begin. And guess who's throwing out the first pitch? So beware. Anyway, our Little League does a great job here, and I'm very proud of the fields and the city. The city has done a great job as getting our Little League fields back looking good, and we're very blessed. So I'm glad to see a lot of people have signed up for Little League. A new recycling center hours. The newest thing you need to remember, Monday and Tuesday it will be closed. And the reason why they're going to be closed is for maintenance and cleaning and things that just get out of control over the weekend. So Edward is on top of it and he's going to get it back under control. Oh, the control is there, he said. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to call City Hall. And with that, people, we are adjourned.